All right, so welcome back to part 2 of episode 9, which is now what we're going to be calling episode 10 of the So Let's Talk About It podcast. And we left off talking about 8 decisions about money that couples should be discussing.
Okay.
And I think we had a great start, and we only got through 2, so we're gonna get through the other 6 in this conversation. But let's just recap on kind of like what we talked about already. Decision 1 was how much should we work, right? And talking about the reasons why people are overworking, the reasons why they would do that, why men would do that, and then how their wives are receiving it, or the girls, how the women receive that level of overworking. And decision number 2 was, should mom work outside the home? And talks about the reasons why a mother would want to.
Okay.
And I think we had some really, really valid points in that episode. And so the continuation of that is decision number 3, which is who pays the bills. And so we're excited to get to it and talk about decision number 3.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. There's a male dilemma, right? And I think the question, before we get into excessive control, the question is, okay, as a man, do you feel like it is a must that I pay the bills? Because I know we have conversations with our friends, and we've had conversations with the other couples where it's like, it is my duty as a man to pay the bills. Is that how you feel? Or is it a stigma? What is it?
I think initially men feel like that.
Okay.
Before you actually get into marriage, before you actually find somebody of value to share life with, I think we grow up feeling like, okay, we should be the ones to take care of the bills. But in my household, I saw that, both parents worked and both parents took care of the bills as far as I know. I don't know if they had a different dichotomy or not.
Right.
But I saw 2 people working in that household. So I assumed that there were 2 people paying the bills. It wasn't just on one person.
And so I think like when you're talking about paying bills, especially from a male-female perspective, I think the thing is talking about if we have 2 separate incomes, whose money is paying the bills, right? And so, which I think is kind of messed up simply because if that was me in that perspective, and I feel like things like separate bank accounts, people ask us about that all the time. Things like separate bank accounts are like saying that I don't want to be a partner and saying that I don't want to be together. That's my opinion. So when we're talking about who pays the bills, they're saying that the male dilemma is that men want control, and that's why they choose to pay the bills.
I don't think we necessarily just want control. I think when you do divide it like that, like I need this person to pay bills and this person to do that, you relinquish control. So if you came to me and said, I want you to be able to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. Well, you just relinquish control of anything when it comes to finances, in that sense.
Well, women, we want control, so that I think that's why this is valid, because I think both parties want control. And so the book, and if you are just tuning into this episode, we're talking about 8 important money decisions for every couple. This book right here, if you're on watching, by Russ Crosson, and so it talks about 4 reasons for control, right? And I want your input on this. It says the first reason is because we're on a tight budget. And I think men are, well, for me, in our household, let me not say men, but in our household, because you're a detail-oriented person, you are focused on budgets. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily have to be tight, you know what I'm saying? But you understand where it's like, okay, Brett, you getting a little out of pocket, like chill, like how much, you know what I'm saying? And so it's saying that there's the reason why men have control or desire control is for things like close reign on what's happening with the money.
Yeah, because I think men are paranoid.
What are you paranoid about?
We're paranoid about being impoverished. We're paranoid about being homeless, and it being our fault. So
why would it be your fault though? Because
it will be. It's a social norm that, okay, if we're married and we somehow become homeless, it is not the woman's fault. This is how society sees it.
Okay.
And this is how we view it.
Okay.
It is not the woman's fault. It's 100% the man's fault. Something he didn't do, or he did wrong is the reason why they're in this situation. Mm-hmm. And we have that paranoia of, we don't want it to be our fault. Whatever happens financially, bad or whatever it is, we don't want it to be our fault. And I think that's why we have a close tight rein when it comes to money or a budget, or we're more conscious of a budget than a woman is
Do you
because
feel
of
like
that.
women are just free spenders? Is that what y'all are trying to say? Because I feel like every time I hear couples or especially men have this conversation, it's as if we just be out here throwing money away.
No, it's not. It's not that you're free spenders. I feel like you have you're unconscious about your spending, though.
I
And
am.
we're very
I
very
know I
conscious.
am.
We're very very conscious when it comes to our spending, because when we spend our money, we're thinking of so many other things than just this. What do people feel when they buy something that they've always wanted? It's like this high that you feel like.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have that. We have anxiety.
Okay.
We don't have a high. We have
So when you bought
anxiety.
my car, you had anxiety.
100%. So when I bought your car, I thought of so many things down the line. I thought of so many different aspects that making the purchase had to make sense.
Okay. So what was walk me down the mindset of a man in his anxiety of making a purchase.
So before I made that purchase of your car, I knew we had to have at least 6 figures saved.
Okay.
So that was one of the first goals. The other goal was, what if I can't afford this car eventually one day? So we think about, okay, what if things change? I don't think women think of that, because they're always thinking of blissful finances, and we all understand that. I think men understand to a degree that things can change and things may change. So how do you adapt? And I think we think about adapting to different things, and we play these different scenarios in our head so that we make the right financial decision.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. The second one was this. It says that the wife has done something with the money that makes him feel uneasy.
Yeah. This is why he would have control.
Yes, this is why
100%,
men
yes.
this is why men want control of the finances. Is basically the whole thing.
Absolutely. The wife has done something that might have pissed him off, or she might have spent a large amount of money without thinking it through first, and that might have pissed him off, and he's like, okay, we need to reel it in. And that's when he may exert his dominance in that area. Yes.
So let me ask you a question. Have I ever done that to you?
Have you? I don't think you've ever done that. I think that you just never thought down the line, like how I think things 5 times through. Mm-hmm. I don't think you think about that before making a purchase.
Okay. And
we're different in that aspect.
We are, because I'm 100%. I know that I am it is what it is, and I want what I want, and because I want it, let's do that. If it's because I've worked hard and I've put in the hours and the time and the years to be able to say today is a day I want to just swipe my card and that just be it, But I do believe that over time, especially when you're with somebody so long like we have been, that some of their characteristics rub off on you. So it's not like I don't make decisions the same way I used to because I've been with you for so long, and I don't think that's a bad thing. That's not saying it's not a conformity thing. I think it's just growing up. It's growing together and growing up, because you're like that, and because that's the way you think through things. I've started to do the same thing. Okay, if I make this decision, what does this decision mean versus just how does it make me feel? Because most of the time, for me, it's a feel good moment.
Even if I had a big spending habit, I would still think sort of the same way. Like, even if I spent a lot of money, on things, like I like nice things and stuff like that,
yeah,
and I spent large amounts of money, I still would have that same mindset from a man's perspective, just because it doesn't matter if you're making a lot of money or a little money, we still think this way.
I understand. I mean, steward well, also. But I think I feel like we hear that a lot, and because we do talk to a lot of couples, and it's always that the wife, where it's like y'all act like we just out here doing the most, but
no, it's not that y'all do the most.
Okay,
I think it is women can get reckless when it comes to spending, or you can get yourself into debt.
Okay,
which I think men try to shy away from the most part.
Okay,
but it's that second thought of, should I? And it's not much of a should sometimes when it comes to women, and sometimes it is. But in this scenario, if he feels uneasy, if she's done something financially that might have put them in a bind, or that can potentially put them in a bind, he won't trust her. over.
It actually, so the control comes down to your level of trust at this
Correct.
point. With this, okay. So the next one is to keep the wife dependent.
Yeah, I think that's a controlling man. So if I'm a controlling man, that means I have no problem with you making less money or no money at all, because I want to keep the whole control when it comes to my finances and to the finances in general over your head.
And I think, I think that's so toxic. It's toxic because, and I mean, to a degree, but I do think it's toxic because when we talked about, the whole second decision was, should the mom work? And now it's, no, you don't work, because those are the moments and those are the situations where a man comes out his mouth in an argument and says stuff like, I pay the bills around here, and you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's kind of like,
that's when you hear that. Yep.
That's where, when we talked about decision number 2 about moms working, and it's like understanding that she wants her own, but not because she just wants her own. Sometimes it's because I'm being controlled by money. So I need to bring in my own money so that you can't talk to me about what it is that I'm doing. Or how I contribute to the household, or your level of reign over the household. Like some dudes I think can take that head of household thing. Like, look, I'm the head of house, like, and you're the head, right? This is not me taking away from being the head of the household at all. But sometimes it's like the guys will make it so literal in you don't do anything. It's like you're kind of belittling the woman because of what you're bringing to the table.
Financially?
Yes. And so, yeah. But it starts with financially, right? Because the control isn't just it starts financially. And because it's financial, which is the main basis of our life, you know what I'm saying? Like if there's no finances, we're homeless.
I think in this aspect, if I'm keeping the wife dependent, there's also a certain level of respect I do not have for her. And that's when you start to see a disrespect inside your marriage. Because I'm making more money than you, because you're not bringing anything financially. That's all we think we bring value of. You know what I'm saying? Like men don't associate their value outside of anything else but money.
Why is that?
I don't.
Is it society? Is it when you grow up? Well, if I had to have a perspective on it, do you think it's because when you get married, right, or when you're considering marriage, that one of the things that you hear the most of is you better be prepared to take this person from her covering, or the person that's taking care of the money. Like I remember my dad told me a story about my grandfather when he was about to marry my mom, and my grandfather took him for a walk, and he literally said, she can't come back here. So basically, like, she can't come back. So when she leaves and you take her, you are taking ownership of everything that comes with that, and
her finances. Right? Okay, continue.
That's the end of the story. What?
No, because that's what I mean, though. That's why men feel as though their value is only financially. Like, if I'm not bringing forth something financially, where does my value lie within the household? This is why. Because of talks like that, you subconsciously put a pressure into this head, like, okay, it's my fault if anything happens. So if anything does happen, if you do fall on hard times, whatever it is, the man will feel like it's his fault. Because essentially it is. When you having that kind of discussion.
I feel you.
So let me ask you, what do you feel like women's responses to men being excessively controlled when it comes to finance?
There could be any response. Like, I think especially when it's controlling you, I feel like I said earlier, belittled. It can feel as if you don't have a place in your home. Am I only good for sex? Am I only good for making your dinner? Am I only good for cleaning this house and making sure, you know what I'm saying? It's like, think about when men be like, well, I'm making the money, so the least you could do, the least I can come home to is, and it's like, now you have all these demands. Mm-hmm. And so I think the same way that you feel like men have a financial obligation, societal pressure, so do women. And you need to be cooking every day. You got to make sure that you are have a clean, you want a clean home. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not me saying, like, let's be dirty. What I'm saying is there's the expectation that I have to do it.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes
sense.
Like,
there's the expectation that, it's the same thing you said. If my mom comes to my house and my house isn't kept, mm-hmm. she's not asking you about it. She's not going to ask you. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So like my best friend, her bridal shower was this weekend, and she had put on Facebook how her mom was coming into town. And she was like, only when your mom comes to town do you stay up to 3 a.m. cleaning just for your mama to come over and still have something to say about it. But they never gonna come to she not gonna come to Trey and say that. She not gonna come to her man and be like, what's up with the house, if you feel like it's not kept. So in the same sense, we have the same feeling. So it's like if I'm now under the reins and the restrictions, because the thing is, like, no woman likes to have to ask permission to do anything. You know what I'm saying? Which I feel like that's the issue with money, is because when you're in a partnership with somebody, you now have to consult. So it's like the things that are on my heart to do, or the things that I want to do, I have to, if I make the decision, I feel bad because of the conversation I'm going to have with you to get the approval of it, or the argument that we're going to have because it's already done. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's the same sense of like, just because you're the one that's providing, or we're both providing, it's still that control sense. So it feels like I don't have control over myself, because all I can do is based off of what you are allowing of me. And I know I felt that way multiple times when it comes to, okay, I want to do this, and now I got to talk, but I know I got to talk to you. And that's the part that pissed me off, because now I got to go based off of what you know what I'm saying? We've had to make 100%. Decision. And I feel like there's been times when I felt like I lost my voice because you control the finances based off of the tight budget, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, 100%. I get it.
So I think for me, it's been, not necessarily being belittled, but feeling like I have no place, because you have taken on the role of provider in the financial area of how things are getting taken care of.
I get it. So how else do women respond then?
So in the book, in particular, in the book, it talks about 4 different ways that women respond to, say, apathy, which is there's no interest anymore. They lose enthusiasm, or they lose concern. I can 100% say that I have been, what is the word? I have experienced apathy, because I don't know, is it apathetic? Like, I've experienced apathy in, like, my enthusiasm to talk about finances, or my enthusiasm to, be in the CPA meetings and stuff like. My enthusiasm isn't there. My concern is no longer there because of those situations where, I don't think we would think the word is control, but based off of this, it's control.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So apathy. The other one was frivolous spending. So it's like you like revenge. I'm about to say revenge trading.
To that point, do you think women relinquish control? Like, do they give the control over?
I don't think we get the option. Has there ever been a conversation where we discuss? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's kind of like this is an unspoken thing that just becomes like, this is how we are now managing the family finances. But is there really a conversation of who does what, whose money goes where? You know what I'm saying? So I don't think we get a chance to relinquish control because we were never asked in the first place. Because if you're saying this is your God-given thing to do, or this is just how men are programmed, then have I been asked anything?
How do you have that conversation then?
I think it's just regular. Like, I think there has to be a period of time where, like, you and I were just talking about, like, okay, we're about to turn 30. We're also in the second half of 2022 and going into the last 6 months of this year. Well, what do we want to do? How do we want to manage our finances? What are some of our investment goals, savings goals, and have, stuff like that. And I think when you sit down and you start to talk goals, at least of where we want to see our family or where we want to see our finances, then you can now have the conversation. If you have your business and I have my business, and I know that this is my projected income from my business, if I have said clientele, or same thing with you, or if I do this event, or if I have another opportunity, you know what I'm saying? It's like when you start to lay it on the table, I think that provides an opportunity to have the conversation of, okay, whose money goes where? Because literally with some of the stuff that we've been talking about recently, and that's what I said, okay, well, my money that I'm going to be providing to the household will be used for living expenses and savings. And you're saying, which now puts your income to be allowed to be for investing. And so I think that's, you lay the foundation by having the conversation. I think it's just about talking about where we want to go. But I think in that moment, I have been in a place where I have relinquished control, or maybe you have, if I said that my money is going to be living expense money.
No, I think what it started with us when I came off the job, though. Like that.
Yes.
That change in how, I guess, we saw money together.
I think I think for us, it is different because our money has been made together for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of always been our money, and we haven't had the yours and ours, but I do miss when you did have yours.
Yeah, I remember
You know
you
what I'm
told me
saying? I did. I do. But the other thing is frivolous spending. So it's like kind of like I'll show that nigga like, all right, nigga, you gonna look in this account and it's gonna be gone.
Oh, that's like a response to.
Yes, so
Oh,
that's a
wow.
response to feeling controlled is that I spend anyway.
Got you. Okay.
As a revenge response, and then hiding money. I think that's like an olden thing. Our mothers and our mothers' mothers and our grandmothers and great grandmothers, they used to be the one where you found money all over the house and stashed just in case anything happened. You know what I'm saying? If I gotta run.
I got you.
And then the last one was getting a job or separate accounts. And that's the response to the feeling of control. But, you know, my question to you is, how do you feel like, because you asked me how can we have the conversation? My question to you is, how do you feel like you can resolve it as a husband? Because I'm willing to relinquish control, right? But what does a man need to now do in order to have the conversation with her?
Well, I think we need to. I think men need to come to their wives, and we need to talk about our habits. I think all this control and things like that, when it comes to money, it all boils down to the individual's spending habits or financial habits, and it's really about coming together and now making a picture of our goal, or financial goal, whatever we want to get to. Now, who would be better in this area leading us to this particular goal? Is having that conversation, and now being honest about your own habit. Like if I'm not a big saver, or if I'm not a big spend, whatever it is, maybe this person is better and suited in this area to and more disciplined in this area for us to get to this goal. Or maybe the other person is. You never know. But I think having that conversation, that sit down of saying, let's talk about where we want to go financially and how we're going to get there, and who's going to be taking the leadership role in that aspect. Because there's so many other things that you can lead your household in. You know
That's real. Because I think, when it comes to money and it comes to paying bills in particular, like, you manage the household finances, but you don't know when any of the bills are due.
Correct. I definitely don't.
Like, and the lights ain't off. You know what I'm saying?
So real.
The car's not repossessed. We're not getting an eviction. You know what I'm saying? Because, at the end of the day, my goal for financial freedom was always to have my bills on auto pay. And so, one, I also don't know when they come out either. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the point is, you manage the household finances, but I pay the bills. And I think for all my fellas who are listening, I think the resolve is that you guys, because you have that control spirit that is just inevitable, because you have that, you don't include us in what you want to do. So all we want is to be included in the conversation.
In what conversation though?
The conversation about the money, period.
Okay.
Money can either be a promoter or a destroyer of communication. We talked about that last episode, talking about how it messes up sex, but it can be a promoter or a destroyer of communication. Because I feel like with even revenge spending, that means I'm trying to relinquish, my desire. It's like I have a desire to be independent of you. And sometimes you do, because you want to just be able to do what you want to do. But, how do you feel like finances and bills mess with or could help with? Because I think what you said to talk about having those conversations, what I said, I think that's healthy. But, speak on that. Like, money can even be a promoter or a destroyer of communication.
I think finances is the number one cause of divorce. Just my personal opinion. That's why I think it's so important to have the hard conversations when it comes to the finances and whose role is what. I think women need to voice how they feel more when it comes to that. Like, if they feel like they're valued in that aspect or not. And I think men need to also be more vocal about what they expect from their partner, and what they expect, what they feel like is expected of them when it comes to their finances. I think there has to be an honest conversation around that. And then, honestly, men are not. We don't want to have a lot of confrontation with our women. So, coming to the table with that conversation is a bit hard for us. It is a bit hard because we see y'all as our piece, so we don't want to come to the table with
rile you up
and say, well, you got this kind of habit, or you spending this, or I don't want to spend this and you want to spend it. We don't want to even come to the table with that kind of energy in the first place. And that's why we never say anything.
And so what I was just talking about is talking about the reason why a man wouldn't want to deal with it. You know, maybe you don't make as much money as me or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important as women too to make sure that it doesn't matter who brings home the most money. And what you were talking about, like women want a 6-figure nigga. But I think it doesn't matter who makes the most money. It's making sure that even if I made more money than you, in a calendar year or in a quarter, in a day, in a month, whatever, if I'm bringing in more money than you, it's to still allow you to embrace your role as the head of the household and as the provider. You know what I'm saying? It's also, you know, encouraging you to be who it is that you were destined to be, not just financially though. And I think that probably eases, you know, the whole control situation.
Yeah, and just to this point, I think it's too many couples probably competing with their spouse. Like there's too many people competing against each other financially. Also, that also brings forth problems.
Yeah. Well, so decision 4. That's your strong point. So I'll let you lead us on that one.
Okay, setting budgets.
Yep.
Why are budgets important? From a woman's perspective or from a male's perspective?
No. From a you perspective, because I'm good on it.
Well, I think budgets are necessary because if you don't have one, you overspend. Or if you don't have a budget, you'll be looking at where's my money going, and you never figure out where your money is actually going. And I think too many times we don't want to look the man in the mirror and like, okay, what is my money being spent on? Where is it actually going? And how can I cut back, or how can I have a budget about things? Because that, you know what it allows you to do? Mm-hmm. And this is what's hard for people that are people pleasers or women or whoever that deal with this. I think it's hard for people to say no. Hard for people to say no. Maybe something came out that a friend or whatever came out with a course. I don't care what it is, and that and you want to spend money on it. If you have a budget, your budget will tell you yes or no. There's no need to come to your spouse. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think you don't even have to come to your spouse when you have a budget out there because you already know what the money is coming out and coming in for.
I understand that, but you know, and that is probably true because you don't, you know, somebody hits you like, yo, we about to go out, pull up. It's hard to say no. And,
go to a restaurant real quick.
I don't think I've ever lived by a budget of like, this is your allotted amount to spend this month. I think they're important, you know what I mean? But in talking about how to build them, because I've done them before, I just don't think I've ever followed through on it. And I think that is most people that like we've built them, and then when your phone gives you that notification like, hey, you've spent $100 over on your eating out budget, it's like, if you don't shut your,
because it's so easy to.
Yes. So, you know, when we talk about keys to building a budget, like I said, that is your strong point. So like, what would you say are the keys to building a strong budget for an individual as well as couples?
Well, it's as simple as now divvying up what is your expenses. You need to figure out exactly what you need to spend on a monthly basis. Like what do I need to live off of? How much money is coming out that I need to live? After that, now you get to kind of see the wiggle room of where you can spend more money at or where you can save more money at. So if maybe your bills is $3,000 a month, but you make $5,000. Mm-hmm. You really make $2,000 a month. So with that $2,000, what can you go out there and do? What can you go out there and how much can you save? And what can you not do? And that's the hard part. The budget ain't about, we can all play with numbers all day long. Budgeting is all about discipline. It has nothing to do with how much you make, checks and balances. None. It's all about your discipline. And then saying no when it's time to say no and saying yes when you can say yes.
But the truth is most people don't have discipline, like 100%. Like in the health department, like working out, like, you know, that is an area that I am working on because my discipline, I think if you could do anything between budgeting and working out consistently, you are top tier in discipline. But the crazy thing is, it's like we go to work or we build our businesses religiously. You know what I'm saying? So we have discipline in certain, or even when you're in school, like you show up religiously. So we have a sense of discipline, but it gets lost somewhere. But I think something that's important to talk about is, for me, is not skipping anything when it comes to building a budget. When it comes to building your budget, not skipping over, like some stuff, like people don't budget out for gas, or they don't budget out for the Starbucks drink. They don't budget out the little stuff because they don't feel like it counts.
Yeah.
And I think
correct.
it's really
And it adds
important
up.
to say, when you're building a budget, whether you by yourself or as a couple, is to not skip over anything. And like, there's no such thing as an unnecessary thing. If your kryptonite is Starbucks, then you need to budget for it. And I'm trying to learn how to do that. So listen, a lot of this stuff is just opinions, but it's also stuff that we have gone through and working through. And this is my working through season.
How do couples have the conversation around budgeting together so they're on the same page? I think the issue is that they're not on the same page when it comes to a budget.
No, yes. And when you say the same page, it's not just the same page. It's about, like, our numbers don't match. Typically it's because I want to spend this amount on date nights. Mm-hmm. Like I want to spend $100. I mean, you want to spend, because that's definitely going to be, you want to spend $100 on date night weekly, or under $100 for date night. But for me, I like nice restaurants. I like nice stuff, blah, blah, blah. So for me, that number don't match. And I think that's why couples don't have the conversations properly, is because the numbers don't be matching. And so, if you're talking about tithing, or you're talking about, where we are when it comes to saving and investing, you might want to save more. I might want to invest more. The numbers don't match. So I think that's where the communication gets messed up, is because my numbers don't match, and we don't now. It's all about compromise. It's choosing. And I think sometimes, like, we be treating stuff like it be a death sentence, real talk.
Yeah.
Like, it's certain things that you got to understand. Like, imagine budgeting for a season, and now there's a surplus in your savings account that now allows you to invest into a multitude of things that bring 6, 7 more incomes. I think people, they don't want to go through any seasons, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're in a dry spell or you don't have money or nothing like that. It's, can I go through a season where, okay, let's get a little tight. Let's clink it down. Like, for us talking about, home ownership, like, we're having to have discussions about making different decisions, because that's the goal. The goal, It has nothing to do with how much money we make and how much money we could make, all that stuff. It has to do with the goal is to be a homeowner. So with everything that's going on in the market, how do you set yourself up? And so I think if you have conversations, like, everything for me always ends up going back to goals, because if you set yourself up properly on where we're headed, then I think it's easier to have the conversations as a collective, so that we could talk about what it is that we want and how do we get there. And then you are more open to compromise, because it's about the greater good of where we're headed.
Correct. I agree. I completely agree.
So decision number 5 is, how much debt?
How much debt do we take out or accumulate?
It's all of that. So, like, I think it's important to talk about first, why is debt accumulated?
So debt can be accumulated from many different reasons.
Okay, drop a few on us.
Well, mainly with millennials is definitely student loans. That's 100%, our number one debtor. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of us come to the table with our own debt, and then you bring it together, and maybe somebody hasn't taken their debt seriously, and now you're coming to the table with somebody else, and they're like, well, did you set yourself up? Well, a good example of this is my friend. My friends, I don't want to say their names, but they did well when it comes to coming together, taking care of their debt individually, and then coming together as a household to now be debt free.
Yes.
But I think,
shout out to y'all, by the way. That's crazy.
Yeah, shout out to them, because
the only people I know.
The only people I know that did it, but it took a lot of time. It took almost 10 years to do so.
No, facts.
Which a lot of people don't want to take that kind of time, because now we get into a whole different conversation when it comes to that. When people want to come together, they want to come together as full people in these amazing careers, when you can build things out.
So, but I think what's important, like, more importantly than, like, okay, yeah, we all come with our own debt, but it's like, okay, before I come to the table with my debt, my solo debt came from the fact that, and I think this is very key to talk about, is that everybody does it. When you think about taking out a student loan, why did you do it?
Everybody did it.
Correct. And like that, and even if that's not what you meant to do, because that's what whoever advised you meant to do,
right? That's
what you did, is because that's what we do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You think about buying a car. I never bought a car. You know what I'm saying? Like, this car is the first time I've ever had a car note. Why? Because, well, I never wanted one. I watched people struggle, growing up and stuff like that, and talk about the car note, and subconsciously it programs into you. I don't want one of that. Lease me, please. You know what I'm saying? Even though that's essentially still a car note, but I don't own it, and I don't got to deal with none of that. And so I think a lot of the stuff what comes with debt is that everybody does it. And so subconsciously, you don't realize that you're doing it or why you're doing it. You're just doing it because that's what's always been done. Think about it. People want new cars. They don't want to go and get a $5,000 car off the lot.
Correct.
Right. When we started talking, my parents bought me a 2002 Ford Escape. This car, first of all, this was 2013. So it was damn near a brand new car.
Yeah.
It was an old car, 2002 Ford Escape that had 5,000 miles on it. My parents paid like $35,000 to $4,000 on it. So
really?
Yes.
Sheesh.
My dad is a come up king.
He
found this car, and it's not just about the fact that he found the car. It's about the fact that the car lasted me up until we got married. So you're talking about for 5 years, this 12-year-old car has run.
Yeah.
But it was a brand new car from a mileage standpoint. You know what I'm saying? It was a brand new car from an engine standpoint. It's not an old car. It's just an old year, an older model. But somebody might want to go get a car note simply because, I can go get me a brand new one right now, or I can get a 2020 and 2022, and the 2020 got 90,000 miles on it. And you don't peep game that, bro, the car's 2 years old and got 90,000 miles on it. But because it's a 2020, I want it.
So is the book saying that we're not having the discussions around the debt that we accumulate, or are they saying that people individually come to the table with whatever financial habits they have? And
correct. That's the whole thing. But that's why you have to have the conversation, because I'm already here with this. So I need to know how you accumulate. Like, let's talk about this. When I was ready to go get my master's degree, I came home the day I made the decision, so excited, ready to go. I came home ready to get my master's, and I get a letter from my undergrad saying, you owe us $8,000, and if you don't pay, we sending this to collections. Well, by the time I saw the letter, it was already 2 months old, so it's already in collections. I owed them $11,000. When I told my parents, the first thing that my dad said was, just go get a personal loan. You got great credit, you got money in the bank, they'll approve you ASAP. It took them 15 seconds to approve me. But did I accumulate this debt because that's what I had prepared to do? No, I accumulated a debt because that's what I was told to do. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like having that conversation of, if I now decide, hey, Malk, things have gotten tough, or, we got to make sure we get out of this situation or do that, blah, blah, blah. I'll just go get a personal loan. Now you need to know that's why did I do that? It's because that's what happened to me, a previous time in my life, that's how things were handled.
Your response to debt.
That's my response to debt. So I have to have a conversation about why people are doing it and how it's accumulated. And, sometimes it is a desire to provide.
Yeah. No, sometimes it is that. I mean, you find, because finance is such a touchy subject for people in general, when you get into a hole, you automatically are in survival mode. So you're thinking of all these different things. And I think you're not thinking with a clear mind.
Right.
And that's when mistakes can happen. So I try to stay even keel in that aspect, because I am conscious of that. I try to make my financial decisions based upon nothing but straight facts and what can actually happen from this outcome, of what I do and what is the outcome of this. And
Malcolm's the only person that I be knowing interest rates on stuff. He was like, you don't know that if this was like a year from now, you'd be paying 20% on that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Exactly. And I'll be having full plans and stuff like that.
No, like, but that's what's important. But I think, basically it was saying, like, if a man positions the family in debt, it's probably because they have a desire to provide and things aren't in a space. Like I've witnessed that in my own, my upbringing and stuff like that. But I think the other thing is, like, your desire to impress people. And, sometimes when you're a people pleaser, you position you think it's not you, but why did you go to college?
So here's the thing. My thought before college, I told myself, okay, is basketball worth putting you in this much financial debt? That's the conversation I had with myself before I actually applied.
So that's the thing, though. You know what I'm saying?
That was my mindset.
That's what I'm saying, though. So it's asking those questions. And so let's talk about the husband's response to debt, and then you can talk to me about the wife's response. So let me talk to you about this. So The husband. It says the husband's response to debt is them overworking because now we got it. We're not talking about getting it. Now we got it. It's accumulated.
Now you have the debt.
Now I have the debt.
And now I got to work off.
The husband's response is overworking.
Yeah. Yeah, because now you acquired this debt, and now it's like it's hanging over your head. So we feel like, okay, I got to work 10 times harder to be able to pay it off, because you're a slave to the debt, in a sense. So now of course, we're going to overwork. We're going to overwork ourselves in order to get ourselves out of the hole. And we feel like we have to get our family out of this hole, so we will overwork 100%.
Okay, so the next one is they stop telling the wife about what it is that they're doing.
Yeah. It's a coping mechanism, and it's also I got this. I got it figured out. She ain't gotta know. I got this thing figured out. I can do this. I can do that. I can finagle this. I can finagle that. And she ain't really gotta know much about it. I got this.
Okay, that's crazy, because that breaks trust though.
Yeah.
Because if I now find out, there's so much more conversation that has to now be had around why are you hiding it? Why are you hiding how you're handling it?
Well, okay. Well, it depends on if the debt is his fault. If the debt is his fault, I feel like he's going to be even more reserved when it comes to getting himself or you all out of it. There'll be 10 times less discussion about the decisions financially to get out of that hole, that debt.
I think that's understandable. The next one, it says they have a mental battle with money after that.
I can believe that. A mental battle, though. A mental battle, it's more so about it's not a battle. It's more so now it's a paranoia, like I said earlier. It's a paranoia. It's not a battle. It's a battle of the mind more so. Not of money. It's more so the battle of the mind, like, okay, I can't mess this up now. Mm-hmm. I can't mess this up going forward. So I'm really, really 10 times more cautious of anything I do or anything I spend or anything I allow to come in here.
So what if the debt is her fault?
All right, so I'm not really good at responding to someone else's debt that I think is foolish. Like if you came to me with the debt, say you took out this personal, say we were married.
I did. That
no,
happened in real life.
No, but it happened in real life. But say if we were married.
Okay.
And you said you wanted to take out a personal loan in order to go back to school. Mm-hmm. I 100% would have cursed you out. I
mean, you told me. You actually did, though.
I didn't curse you out, but I said that's not smart. I said I wouldn't do that.
You said it was a clownish move and it was dumb and I wouldn't do that.
I did, but you thought I was hating then.
I did think you was hating. You were hating, though.
I was not. No. I wasn't hating. I saw what you didn't see. I saw what you didn't see and what you didn't think about. And you didn't, there wasn't trust in that, though. You didn't trust in my opinion at that time. But we also wasn't married. We was dating around that time. So I'm giving you advice. I would give you advice of what I wouldn't do. And I said I wouldn't take.
But if we were married, you would hard cold stop.
If we were married, though.
So what if I do it, though?
So if you do it, we have issues. You know what I'm saying?
What
like
we
have real life issues.
Talk to me.
So, okay, you come home. We married. You come home and say
we have 15. I just took out a personal loan so I can go back to school.
$20,000.
It was only $15,000.
Only 15. At the interest is 25. So it doesn't matter. And this is the conversation I'm having with you. So if you come and you do it, is this after I say? I say I
No. It's just my question is just, what if the debt is her fault?
If the debt is her fault, I just me. I feel like I'm always going to remind you of it, and that's not a good thing. And it's very toxic.
That's real. That is real. You 100%. Your toxic trait is memories.
It's going to be toxic because I'm never going to forget it, and I'm never going to allow you to forget the foolish move that you made. I need a plan of how you're going to get out of it.
How am I going to get out? So
how are we going to get out of this?
I'm about to say, because see, that's the thing, but that takes you all the way back. But then dudes don't be wanting the wives work. They don't want you to go to don't get your own money to stay home.
See, that's different. That's the difference. Because if you did do that,
so now I could go get a job. I can go get a job now. Now I could go build my business and do the stuff that I want to do and have my capital because I'm in debt. That's crazy.
I want you to become a multimillionaire now.
You understand that that's toxic too?
Yes, it probably is. But I'm saying what my response is that you better have a plan to get this
Oh
this
my
gone.
gosh.
Because it's crazy. So that's toxic too, though,
How is that toxic?
on your end. Because if you're not having a conversation with me, you're just going out and doing it. Now, how am I supposed to trust you financially? How am I supposed to trust your judgment?
So do you now see why the book makes sense?
I 100% see why the book makes sense.
Because now you're going all the way back to decisions 4,
Yes,
3, and 4,
100%.
having conversation in regards to why you want to have control over the money is because now you feel a way about something that happened.
Yes, that will 100% be anybody's response, not just a man, even a woman's response.
No,
if that was to happen, it's
I'm not knocking it. I'm just asking you.
No, I'm saying it's a natural response, though.
Why am I foolish? I just made a decision. That doesn't make me a fool.
No, see, it makes you a fool when you don't seek counsel. That's how I feel. If you don't seek counsel before you make the decision, I see it as a foolish
Does that make
move.
you a people pleaser? And does that when you have to always seek counsel, does it put you in a position mentally where you feel like you can't make no decisions unless it's approved by somebody?
That's a good point. It's when you're not confident in your decision. Now, if you're confident that this debt is the debt that you should have been taking out, or this is the debt that you need to get in order to get this outcome, that's completely different. You probably don't need to talk to anybody. But if things hit the fan, now you have to have accountability. And I think that's where people lack it. Is that if it doesn't work, they don't hold themselves accountable.
I agree. You're right though. Hey, that's just what it is.
All right, so in the book, it says the wife's response to, what is it, number 5 of how much debt you accumulate is anxiety.
For sure, but if we're in debt, unbeknownst to me, for sure, especially if he's hiding it like we just talked about.
Okay. What about nagging though?
I just can I just say to all my women and to all my men is to understand that we nag. I think that's just the same way you want to control the money is the same way we have a nagging spirit about us at times. And I think it's nagging in the sense of what are we going to do, but also how do we, for me, my nag is I'm a super planner. Like I'm like, yo, what are we going to do? How are we going to do? How are we going to formulate this? What are we going to put together in place? All that kind of stuff like that. That's my version of nagging. But to you, it may be like, bruh, like chill. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Some men respond like, we got it. If you're the one who's saying, I got this, don't worry about it. You can see me wanting to plan how to get out of it as nagging.
I see what you, okay. But that's a natural response for one.
I think that's a natural, not just with that, that's just in life. Okay. I just feel like y'all should get over the fact that you feel like we're nagging because we're going to nag. If you're overworking, I'm going to nag. If you're not spending time with me, I'm going to nag. It's not necessarily, it's not in a place of like, I want you to stop all the time either. It's just, I need to make my point known that this is what I feel about what's happening.
How would you want us to respond to if I'm working and you're nagging me about spending more time with you? If I'm providing?
I think you just have to have a conversation with, or how can we create time? Because the thing is, if you see I'm nagging about time because you're working too much, I think the response is, 1, what do you want from me? Not in a Tyrese kind of way, but what do you want from me and what does that look like? And then based off of what that now looks like, how can I try to meet that need?
I got you.
And then I also feel like this is the thing, this was my point about women nagging is like, we do have to still be considerate too. Like just because I'm nagging don't always mean that I want you to change that though, because at the end of the day, if you're overworking because we need money, or if you're overworking to make sure that you're providing and making sure that our situation is stable, and more than stable, then even though I'm nagging, I'm not asking you to always stop. That's me.
So it's just you venting.
Yes, but y'all call it nagging. To me, I am venting, but a man and a husband is never going to call it venting. You're not going to call your bro and be like, my wife is venting to me.
Yeah, no.
My wife is nagging me.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. And so I just think it's really focusing on the fact that just because I think it's having the conversation and setting it up to say, what are you looking for? What do you need from me? Is it do you want me home for dinner, or do you want, like, for me, it would just be, make sure if you're going to overwork, then you need to take care of me too. And what that means is you cannot miss date night. You cannot compromise on the things that we've set if I'm going to allow you to do that. And I think as women, what happens is we don't give the allow and the grace of you do, but this is what I need from you. And but it depends on the situation. I think it's definitely tailored to what the situation and the circumstance is for your family.
Okay, so they said the other response is no concern, though.
Yeah, I just don't care.
You don't care about what?
Any of it. That's me always. It is what it is.
So you act like you don't care?
I don't. It's not an act.
Okay.
Think about it when it comes to and this is talking about debt, but just talking about finances in general, because that is not my strong point outside of making sure the bills are paid and making the money. For me, that's not my strong suit. So it may appear as though I have no concern for it because it's just, that's not my place. You know what I mean? Although I want to be included and stuff like that too, but it could just be appearing that there's no concern. And I think I feel like as long as you're respectful of your relationship, you're respectful of each person's position, not position, but the role that they play in the household and the things that they contribute, I don't think there's an issue. And I really feel like the things that you can do to fix that is to, if the husband's the one taking care of the debt, as a wife, as a woman, you should encourage his experience. I think that eliminates the hiding it. Like, if I encourage you to handle it the way that you want to handle it and do what it is that you want to do, if I encourage it, I don't think you would hide it. I don't think you would have to feel like I got to take care of it and I can't let her know and all that stuff like that. And I think another thing you could do is develop a strategy for big purchases. Like, we do talk about that. Like, as much as I hate having those conversations, I'm also never going to make a solid, large, I think, what's our number? Like, I don't think we've ever decided, like, what's the number where you have to talk about it?
Where we have to talk about it? I think, $200-$300. I think.
Oh, God. Moving on. I will say for husbands, though, this is what the book was talking about. It said husbands, here's the thing. It says husbands should seek and value your wife's opinion.
I agree. 100%.
Right. So that boils back down to communication. And be grateful.
Be grateful for what?
You have to be in a state of gratitude in all things for, because I know a lot of times when we're talking financially, sometimes you don't have favorable experiences. Like when I was coming home from church and a rock hit my windshield and it cracked immediately. I didn't expect that. But in the sense of gratitude, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to take care of it expense wise. I'm grateful that my mama told me to file a claim with my insurance, and I'm grateful that I got the money to pay my deductible. I think sometimes when you're in a state of pressure with debt or finances, period, that you can lose your gratitude in what's happening. Did I get a new opportunity? Did I get a new client? What have I created? What have we been able to do? We've had so many, I feel like in our darkest moments in life, we've created so much stuff, just like God did. In darkness, he created. And so it's being grateful for, okay, this season may not feel good. However, this is what I actually came up with. Mm-hmm. This is what happened for us in this space. So I think it's also having a state of gratitude so that you can, make it through what doesn't feel comfortable.
Makes sense. So, decision 6.
Talk to me.
Investing.
Right. So, decision 6 is investing. Like, that's the conversation that needs to be had.
Because you read this book, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to understand this.
Decision 6 is having a conversation about how we invest, what we invest in, are we investing?
Okay.
But it can cause marital conflict. And the reasons why it could cause marital conflict is because we have differences. Yeah. We have male and female differences of what you might think.
Risk tolerances.
Right. You may look at, for me, I want to invest into the stock market. You want to invest in real estate. You think real estate is more important. I think getting the stocks is more. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's those differences that cause conflict, because we might get to a point we're not doing nothing simply because we can't agree on what the money should go to. Mm-hmm. You want to put down a down payment on a house for $20,000, $50,000, $100,000. I feel like if we put $100,000 into this and this, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's what it's talking about, having marital conflicts, because now you're not communicating, and then there's a pressure to increase income so that we can invest.
Do you think we ever had an issue when it came to the investing at
I think it's
stock?
what we're investing in, like in the amounts that are being invested. I think those are the issues that have come up in our marriage when it's not necessarily investing. I think we're good on investing. Our willingness to invest is very high, but I think our conflict has come when it's a dollar amount that like this goes back to the whole thing about control, because you are the financial, you're the head of the household and you're planning for what happens if this doesn't go good and all the stuff like that, or what happens if we need the cash flow but we done invested it in crypto and now crypto is down. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where the conflict for us has happened, in the amounts
So I think
and timing. I would say timing.
I also think that strategy, I think we both came to the table investing with kind of similar and different strategies. Like, you came to me about crypto,
Yes.
about investing in the crypto, and I had no problem investing in crypto. I've always just wanted an exit strategy of crypto.
Yes. And I think that's where one of our differences lies, in the sense of, like, I never knew how to exit.
Okay.
That's in business, that's been in investments, and not having an exit strategy. And that's always been what you have talked about. Like, what is our exit strategy? And I think because we had those conversations with other investments like crypto and stuff like that, then when we were talking about real estate and we were talking about buying our first house and all that kind of stuff like that, is this our starter home? Is this stay here home? How long are we going to stay here? When are we planning to get out? What are we going to do to get out? Are we selling? Are we renting? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was developing that plan, but I don't think we get to that part within real estate and having conversations about buying unless we had the issues with missing opportunities to close positions or take your profit and all that stuff. Like, if we don't go through that, we don't have the know of, okay, regardless of what we about to do, what's our number? Like, what are we satisfied with? What are we looking to get out of it? And I think the biggest thing with solving conflicts like that when it comes to conversations around investing is, what is the commitment that we're having to make here, or communicating clearly what I'm looking, if this is something I bring to the table, what am I looking to get out of that investment opportunity? Because it's communication. Investing ain't no hoe. Investing is not something that you can do lightly. We just had this conversation, what was that, yesterday, where you were like, I'm not sure if this is something I'm willing to continue to, kind of talk about that.
So the conversation was basically about, we made an investment earlier this year into a business that we've started, and it has brought forth some kind of return. It has brought forth returns, and we've seen returns from it. And we're now evaluating the risk tolerance of it, though. Now we're evaluating, and we haven't even had this full discussion yet about if we want to continue to risk what we are risking in order to receive the profits that we're receiving.
And so that's where I feel like it's just really about conversation and really clear communication with that, because I think what happens is there's so many people that want to invest. There's so many couples that want to invest. One, they don't know where to start. They don't know what to invest in. I always feel like the best investment is into yourself first, to start to get knowledge so that you can at least bring something of value to the table based off of what you now know.
Correct.
But if you don't do that, then it's hard to really have these conversations, because you don't really know what I'm trying to tell you, that crypto is lit. Crypto is lit. Like, and this is me at 32, because at 25, it was just crypto. Yo, we got to do it. It's just you don't want to be left behind. You know what I'm saying? Then you start Googling.
There's so much FOMO.
Yes, it's fear of missing out and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, get educated and spend the first investments into yourself. This is my personal opinion. Spend the first investments into yourself to get educated, so that when you're bringing something to the table, you have more to go off based on, Now that we have made plenty of investments that's off of
wishing a prayer.
A wish and a prayer, but I don't think it's always a wish and a prayer. Sometimes it's like it makes sense, and I'm willing to just take the risk.
Take the risk, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we'll run it back if it don't make sense, whatever. But I think the biggest thing about investing is always going to be about communication. What do you really feel like is the most important thing to understand about investing?
Each other's risk tolerance. What your risk tolerance may be different from mine. And then your cash flow and your ability to invest. I think some people we want to invest so much, and we want to be investors. It's this popularity contest when it comes to being an investor. I feel like, but we will overinvest into certain things where we don't need to. And there needs to be an assessment of, okay, if this vehicle is going to bring forth this return, this is what we're looking for. If this isn't, we need to pull out. It just needs to be that partnership when it comes to finding things to invest in. Maybe you come to the table with an investment that we talk about, and we come to the table from that discussion that I don't think it suits our family. It doesn't suit our goals and stuff like that. That's important to have that conversation, because if you go out here and just invest in something without my knowledge, then we have
now
no
we got
education.
problem at home. No, we got more problems at home. It's not even about the education. It's about we got issues about trust and communication.
Yeah, so many other things that will pop up.
But I think you said something that was very valuable and important to touch on, especially with us being in the investment space for the last 5 years, is cash flow. And there's a principle that we talk about. It's called cash, asset, cash. And I think more people pay attention to having money to put into assets that provide you more capital. But I think what's important to talk about here is your actual cash flow.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between making income and cash flow. Income is how much money I'm making. Cash flow is what you talked about, where it's like, okay, my living expenses are this is what's left over from what has been made. And I think what people are looking at is I'm taking my income and investing it into something that's going to make me more money. Yeah. That's why when people are starting businesses and you're self-employed and you're starting something, yes, you started it, but a lot of people end up going broke because they're just reinvesting the same dollars that they're getting from their job into the business that's not providing the same amount of profit in return. Yeah. And so when you're talking about things like cash, asset, and cash, it's making sure that you're creating more cash flow before you're focusing on what to invest into. Because that's why I think Malcolm he's so good with that when he talked about the stuff in budgeting, where he's like, you have to find where more money is, because what people are doing is they want to invest based off of what they know they make, but not knowing how much they actually have.
Yeah.
Does that make
100%.
sense? And so what you want to focus on is your cash flow, finding an asset to buy, build, or grow, right? That's going to not provide you more capital, and really doing that kind of rinse and repeat 2 to 3 more times. Like the cash I got from that first investment, putting the cash that I made, my investment amount, or what I invested originally, into another opportunity or another play or whatever, another vehicle that's going to, but so now my first thing is riding off a straight profit. There's no more risk involved because I took my money back. And then I take my original investment, try to find something to put that in, and rinse and repeat. And sometimes you could be doing that with the same $5,000-$10,000, rinse and repeat, taking that same 5-10K and putting it multiple times into multiple things, and all those other things start running off of just the profit. But you have to find the cash flow, the flow. Flow yes. Don't be stopped. That don't mean I got to stop doing it this time or this month, or I need to pay my phone bill. Like, that's not a flow. A flow is this is like, okay, I got an extra $1,000 every month. And if that means for 10 months I saved the $1,000, so I have a $10,000 investment to put in something that can grow exponentially, that's what you want to focus on. So decision 7.
I know you're looking at me.
Decision 7 that we need to talk about is giving.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So it was talking about giving. So this is either to people, to church, whatever. And it says, the reason why husbands are going to be hesitant is because of their drive to provide. So you don't feel like there's a surplus to just be given away. Yeah. Although you have to give to receive, though. You know what I'm saying? I think, when you open your hands up, God puts more into it. Most of the time we're trying to cling on to the money so hard of what I have that I'm not letting God give me more because I'm not willing to give anything away.
Yeah, I think I struggle with that at first. Like, still do at most times. That you hold on to the money that you've made because there's an attachment to it, in a sense. Like, we feel like if we give it away, we're giving a part of our security away.
That's real.
We're giving a part of our,
and that was the next thing, long-term perspectives.
Provide. Yeah,
because of their long-term perspectives. And I think actually going through the whole thing and getting through the 8. It allows you to kind of see the perspectives of male and female and why they think the way they do. Because men, you already said multiple times, and so did the book, that you guys think long term. So you don't want to give because, bro, I am, what you said, messing with my security.
Yeah, messing with my security. And also, part of it could be that you haven't budgeted for that. Like, because if you do budget for giving, then there is a certain amount there that you can give freely. Mm-hmm. And if it's not talked about, if it's not even brought up, if it's not thought about, then yeah, I'm gonna be like more hesitant because I don't know what number to actually give. I don't know what number. I don't know what's part of my security. So if there is a discussion around that and something premeditated that now I know how much I need, I could be giving to this person or to this church or to whatever it is, this organization. I think men would feel more comfortable.
Well, they also said it was a lack of sensitivity. So is it the lack of
Well, yeah,
this
that's
ain't my
true.
problem?
Man, so okay, so if there was a guy or girl homeless came up to you and asked you for some money, would you immediately give it to him?
If I had some, yes. One,
Okay.
because, but one, I'm gonna tell you why. Because, and this is where sensitivity is very important. This is why sensitivity is even on here.
Yeah, I'm gonna share the difference. Okay.
Here it is. I have had a multitude of uncles, like my father's brothers and sisters, that have gone through homelessness. I've been to homeless shelters. I've served the homeless because I've seen my family go through that. So it's a different kind of sensitivity and emotional connection for me because my uncle lived under a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I would, if knowing that, would I want somebody to have given him something so that he could eat? Yes.
So men, we're skeptical.
Everybody's a scammer.
No, that or we're like, okay, you need money for food. Okay, well, let's go get you some food.
But that still goes into your
Because we're
giving budget, though. That's the thing, though. It's still
But I'm not immediately giving it though.
right, but you're willing to go take them to get the food. It's the same. To me, that's the same concept. It's not about does the person need money or do they need food. Your willingness to go get the food, if that's what you're asking for, is still you giving.
Yeah, but here's the difference.
Okay.
I'm not going to get you the food in order to just give.
You're
I'm
going
also
to see
going
how
to,
honest you are.
yes, I'm also going to prove me wrong.
Stupid.
It's more so prove me wrong that I don't that what I'm thinking isn't true, and that you're not going to cater to your habits.
I feel it.
You see what I'm saying? So that's where the sympathy aspect. We're not as sympathetic because we think of in realism.
I feel it. I feel it.
All right, so this is why it says the wife would be hesitant. All right, threat to security
Okay.
and likes to see money.
That's 100%. Because especially if the husband has been the person to establish the money part, then us giving too much away would feel like a threat to security. But the other thing is, I'm 100%. This is so crazy how accurate this stuff be. Because for me, I do. As much as I like to spend, I like to see the money in my bank account more. I like to see the money in my investment account growing more than I like to spend it, even though I like to spend money.
Okay, but what about it also says the husband doesn't communicate well.
So that's like this, essentially, like let's say your parents say, hey, we're late. We need all of our expenses paid this month. Like your mom just had a surgery, right? Let's say that now they're calling saying, hey, we need everything this month, and you just gave it to them, and now I look at the bank account and I see $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 gone, and now I have to come ask you about it. Versus you just saying, hey, the whole thing is about communication.
Yeah.
And so if the husband's not communicating well, it's then saying that there's something that you'd rather do in secret versus discussing with your wife or your partner about what is the need, and then us discussing what we can do. Because let's say we do got the money to do that, but like you said in the budget, that's not what we want. I think it's very important in this day and age, and this is something that I'm learning and I'm working on very frivolously, that somebody else's emergency is not my emergency. Someone else's emergency doesn't have to be your emergency. You can allow it to be your emergency, but it doesn't have to be. And so sometimes you feel like, because this is my parent, this is my friend, this is my cousin, my sister, that I have to do this because they're in a situation. But it's really that's a people pleasing mechanism. And so I know. But it's understanding that I have to show you how to treat me, because what happens is, you know how you feed a cat?
Yep.
You feed a cat, they come back. And I've experienced that, especially with money, that when you give and you don't communicate, like your ability to do that with somebody else or what you're willing to do. But what I like, I talk to some of my friends where they share with me, like if somebody reaches out to me about money, then I have to ask you, what is your plan after this? Because I can't feed a cat. So what's your plan after I can help you, but what's your plan after this? What are you going to do so that this is not the next conversation? And so I think it's important to really be in a place, for me, like I said, it's something that I'm working on very, very hard and intentionally, is that everybody's emergency is not my emergency. So if we then had the conversation to say, okay, hey, my parents need this or whatever, and now we discuss what we're able to do that will fit within that budget or fit within our comfortability, because it says that's a threat to my security, right? What is going to make me comfortable but allow you to feel like I'm helping? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that when you're not communicative, which is what everything boils down to that, but I thought what was actually more interesting to read about is why they both will be reluctant to give.
Both the man and woman.
Both. Both. Poor giving decisions in the past.
So you got PTSD.
PTSD. I gave somebody some money, they never gave it back. Or I gave somebody money, then they was at the mall and they was eating out, but you told me that you needed to pay your car note, or, you know what I'm saying? I've experienced that too. Like, because y'all know I'm a giver. Y'all know I like to show up for people. Like, I want to look out, you know what I'm saying? But I can't look out because you told me that somebody hit you in the back and there's still a dent in the bumper.
This is why I hate this. This is why I have issues sometimes. This is why I don't give money to friends. I don't give money.
I don't loan money. We give money.
I don't loan. Yeah, I don't loan money. Because now you follow them. Now anything they do, that nigga owe me money.
Right, you outside out here.
That woman owe me money.
Is that an Apple Watch?
I know they ain't in the club when they owe me money. These are
That's
things.
such a black toxic.
Oh my gosh, so toxic.
You acting like what's the Julius off of Everybody Hates Chris?
Yeah, now I'm counting everything you do from the time that I gave you the money to the time that you're supposed to give it to me. I just don't believe in it because of that toxic thing. Like you counting too many things.
But I do think that's why you should give money versus loaning money, because if you loan it, you want it back. If you just give it, it's just that's what I wanted to do. Yeah,
because I don't want the stress.
The other one was,
and I don't want to clock you.
Oh, my bad.
Because I will.
Malcolm will clock you. The other one was conflict. Like one wants to and one doesn't. That's ours, 100%.
What you mean?
Like one person is wanting to give and the other one is not wanting to
100%.
give.
Okay,
that's our dilemma.
That's our
always.
dynamic all the time.
There was a time where I went to church.
Man, tell them about this.
I went to church and, now this is real life, y'all. This is not like, we are not cabining at all.
She went to church by herself.
I went to church by myself and he said I can never go back alone.
By herself.
Well, you better be one to go. So I go to church and, the message spoke to me, when they end the service, sometimes they're like, if this, you want to sow your seed. And the thing was, we always give, you know what I'm saying? We don't never not give, right, at church.
Yeah.
The thing was, the seed was $1,000.
$1,000. Now, what was the number I said earlier? 200-300? She jumped to $1,000.
So, and I knew I was going to have to deal with this at the house. That's the thing. You got to know who you're dealing with. I already knew. Let me finish my story. This was the thing. And he feels like I'm trying to sell him on this. But what happened was, in real life, the Spirit spoke to me. And this is, for all my believers, I'm not trying to be deep, but this is really what happened. I contemplated it. I thought about it. I was like, I don't want to hear Malcolm's mouth. And that was the reason why I wasn't going to do it. And I thought that 1,000 was a little outlandish. And so what happened was the Spirit spoke to me clear as day. I will never forget this moment. Clear as day, and said, if somebody else was to call you with a business play that might cost you $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, you don't question it. Mm-hmm. But the minute you're in church and you received whatever it is that you needed to receive, you got the word, or you had the whatever you need, the clarity, the vision, whatever it is that you needed in that moment, you received that. And the minute that I ask you to sow, you have to figure out, can I, should I, that's a lot. I got to call my husband. But if it, you know what I'm saying? And that was in a season where we were actively investing in different businesses. We were building our portfolio. We were building our businesses. And we had literally, y'all, I'm talking about over 2-3 weeks, 2 to 3 months, we had been doing that and investing into different investment and business vehicles over the first quarter of the year. And so I'm in church and I'm like, literally, we had just did it probably like a month before that. And it's like, dang, that was a 5-figure investment, but you are contemplating giving in God's house. So for me, I was convicted, but I also heard it clear as day. So in that moment, what you thought about it didn't really matter to me, because I would rather be obedient for him to give to us a surplus, or maybe it's an idea, or maybe, he fixed these markets on these homes, whatever. But go ahead. You can tell your part.
No, it's not a part. It's just I received a call saying that you had given $1,000.
Well,
so
because
like,
I could come home and not say anything. That's the other part.
Correct.
Is that you could have just looked at the account and saw the money was gone.
Yeah, that's true. But how does one respond when something comes over the spouse?
Not something. Don't. First of all, don't do that, because you definitely sound like we're not both believers.
No, we are. But I'm saying like if one has that experience and I'm not having that experience because I'm not there. How is one supposed to respond to their spouse?
I don't know, but
what were you actually looking for as a response?
I wasn't looking for anything, because I knew that I was in the right. And I'm not trying to sell you on why it was right. I'm not trying to sell you on, right. I'm not trying to say, hey, listen, I heard from the Lord. Like, I wasn't giving you that, because at the end of the day, and when I shared that with you, I said, even to this day, we talk about, let's pray over that seed that we gave, because it's not just about that moment. It's us coming together. What I said to you is that I need you to believe God with me for what we've sown.
My response was completely different than what I thought it was going to be.
Because I also asked the Lord to touch your heart.
You did. And I also saw the confidence in what you exuded, when you made that decision. So I knew it wasn't just you. It could have been.
It wasn't a fluke.
No, not at all.
No, but I believe that. I truly believe that. And I like I said, that was a conviction for me, because, so many times when there are business opportunities or investment opportunities, we do act a lot faster than when it is time to give to the homeless, or it's time to give to this charity, or it's time to give to those places. Is this person legit? No, I'm going to take you to McDonald's to get you a burger because you said you, no. Let me just give freely, especially if that's what I'm being called to do. So giving is definitely one of our biggest challenges. One of our giving and investing are like our two biggest conflicts, for sure.
Yeah, I would agree.
And decision aid is just talking about actually communicating and strategizing around how to have these conversations, which we've actually done, having this conversation. And within these decisions, we've talked about how to start having those conversations and what would you say communication wise about that thing. So, I think this is a perfect place to talk life lessons. So when we're talking about money decisions and having conversations around finances, what was your life lesson?
My life lesson is take ownership of your habits, your financial habits, and also be intrigued enough to learn about your spouse's financial habits in order to come together to make better decisions, more sound decisions financially, and give each other grace. The life lesson in that is definitely give each other grace, because no one is perfect. No one has it all figured out. You all gonna make mistakes. But how can we come to the table and try to avoid some of the pitfalls that a lot of people go through when it comes to marriages, because we understand that finances is the number one cause of divorce, at least in my perspective. And numbers can probably back that up too. So if that's the case, we got to emphasize and focus on this 10 times harder, and we got to have the discussions 10 times more, because things are forever changing, and understanding things are forever changing. So when we come to the table, it's not to get on each other. It's more so to be better and grow and get to our financial goal. And my other life lesson is have a financial goal for your family.
That's true. I would say my life lesson is don't be afraid of conversations that make you uncomfortable, especially if you never saw your family having these conversations. Because I think subconsciously that's why we don't. That's why we think the way we think about having conversations and sitting down about these different things in regards to debt, in regards to our level of investing. How do we want to give? How do we really just create, like you said, the financial house for our family. Don't be afraid of having what feel like weird conversations around money because you're not used to having conversations about money. What I can tell you is about the more you start to do it, the easier it becomes. Like now, money is not a hard conversation for us. It's just talking amounts, talking investments, talking whatever it is that fits within the goals that we've set as a household. So don't be afraid of the conversations. I think the more we start to have them and have them effectively, talking about, hey, this is, if you're going to work and you need to get this and you do this, this is what I need for our marriage to make sure we grow. Because it's not enough to go get all this money and end up hating the person that you did it for in the long run. So that's my life lesson. So I think this was a great episode.
It was part 2. Part 2 was done.
Yes, part 2. So we're getting close to the end of the season.
We are, and I can say the end of the season ends with a bang.
Definitely ends with a bang. So listen,
therapy nonetheless, though.
Yeah, no. I mean, this whole season has been a very therapeutic for us, especially in the season, a life that we're in, turning 30, all that stuff like that. So I'm excited for what's coming and what you all are about to experience in total. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into the So Let's Talk About It pod. I am one of your hosts, Brittany Garrison. You can follow me at Brittany Donnell on Instagram.
You can follow me, Malcolm Garrison, Malcolm _2_ Garrison on IG as well.
And you can follow our podcast at the So Let's Talk About It pod Instagram page. And then don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or listening on Spotify, be sure to rate and review as well. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and click these bells so that you can see whenever we upload our new podcast. So we look forward to next week.
Yeah.
And thanks for rocking with us. We love y'all.
Love y'all. Peace.